America is gripped by a full-blown crisis. Law and order has broken down. This guy is hammering your door down, and he has a loaded weapon. Your heart is thumping 10 to the dozen. You're terrified. Your family is in mortal danger. You have one chance to get this right. One chance to save the lives of the people that matter. What are you going to do? Well, pay attention and stop what you're doing. The following video presentation will save your life. You're going to learn from someone who's experienced a real-life crisis firsthand. We've all seen it on the news, heard it on the radio. The shocking disasters, the earthquakes, the trouble spots, the other side of the world. It's always someone else's problem, something we'll never have to deal with, right? Well, for most of us that might be true for now, but I hate to be the bearer of bad news. What would happen if you suddenly found yourself in a disaster, on your doorstep, in your backyard? It was your disaster, your earthquake, your flood, or your country's civil unrest. Would you cope? Would you know how to survive? Would you know what to do? The answer to that right now is probably not, and here is why. Our governments have been lying to us. In fact, the whole of the Western world, the middle classes, the backbone of any country or society, the people who pay their taxes, law-abiding citizens, are getting squeezed. And we've been lied to. Our great countries are on the edge, not just from climate change, but from economic collapse. Our countries are basically bankrupt, and there's no spare cash. If we're a business, the foreclosure sign would have been long gone. Our world as we know it right now is on the brink, teetering on the edge. We're so deep in debt, there's not enough paper to write down all the zeros. Something is about to happen, and this is what worries me. Now, you're probably wondering, what does some limey British guy know about a crisis? My name is Dan Taylor. I'm an ex-Special Forces soldier. My motto is simple: hope for the best, prepare for the worst. I've served in different war zones around the world. I've been in crisis situations that for most people would seem like a living hell. I've worked with American SEAL units fighting side by side on the battlefield, and trained Green Berets in survival techniques at Fort Lewis, Washington State. And now I'm ready to share these very important survival methods with you. Detailed information not available anywhere else. Hands-on, real-life experience. Like you, I'm passionate about my country, but worried for the next generation. I feel we've been led on a path of destruction and chaos. A runaway train, and our great nations are being sacrificed. Think back to the recent banking crisis, the so-called official cliff. The leaky bucket was plugged again, staving off the inevitable. Do you think our leaders were worried about the money, the debt? Well, they were worried, all right, about losing control of the people. But all they seem to do is argue, leaving you and me in limbo. Imagine if law and order were to break down. If the US dollar isn't worth the paper it's printed on, and oil prices spiral out of control, suppliers stop supplying, people start to panic. Civil unrest in society as we know it is lost. The mob rules and people have nowhere to turn to. Call 911 and there's nobody there to help. What would you do? So do yourself a favour and pay attention and stop what you're doing, and listen very carefully. And I'll be totally honest with you. I hope you never have to use any of my methods, but if the need arises, this information I'm about to share with you will not only help you be ready, but it will save your life. I know, because it did mine on 2 very separate occasions. Look, I don't want to turn you to some paranoid doomsday prepper, living in constant fear in an underground bunker, or running around like a demented Rambo on acid. My goal here is simple. If the worst case scenario does happen, then it's better to be ready, to have the contingency plan ready to go at a moment's notice. It's better to have the knowledge on how to cope and survive a crisis than not having this information and not being ready. Knowing how to cope in a disaster will save your life, but more importantly, it will allow you to help your nearest and dearest, your partner, your children, your loved ones, the people that matter. I have kids too. They rely on me for absolutely everything. Imagine yourself caught up in a crisis. It doesn't matter what. Your kids are scared. They look to you for help, for some reassurance, someone to tell them that everything's going to be alright. Could you look them in the eye and know that was true? Honestly? Would you have the confidence in your own abilities right now? It doesn't matter if you're a single mum, married, or living on your own. This information is vital to your potential survival. I'm going to show you the 17 essential things you need to know about in a crisis. Any crisis where the everyday things that we all take for granted will not work. Mobile telephones, computers, electricity, and even basic clean running water. Not being able to nip to the grocery store for life's essentials. And remember, I'm speaking from experience. Apart from the threat from financial meltdown or extremist terrorism, our climate is changing. Natural disasters are becoming more common, and they're getting a lot closer to home. Just recently, New York was flooded out by Hurricane Sandy. They called it the perfect storm. The truth is, it's just the beginning.